All right, everyone, and we are live. And on this live and pre-recorded episode of Pinchel's Garage, we're going to be sealing up a 1.8T. And what I mean by sealing is that we're going to replace all the seals that pretty much that hold oil in on these cars or these engines, because I'm giving this engine to a good friend of mine since he blew his other engine. So we're trying to help him out, and the other engine's just chilling back there. If you guys can see that in the corner over there, that one actually the cam chain tensioner actually failed on him. So what this live DIY and pre-recorded DIY is going to entail is we're going to be doing the valve cover gaskets, the cam chain tensioner, the Halfmoon seal, the actual gasket that goes on top of the tensioner. We're going to show you how to remove the cams, and the cam seals, because all that has to come off. We're going to time the engine before everything happens. Intake and exhaust manifold, turbo. We're going to put everything back on to factory. If you guys see all this stuff that's on the ground, all this has to be put back on because my friend needs to make the engine smoggable. We're doing the rear main seal, the front main seal, a brand new oil cooler and gasket, the new coolant flange. All that has to be replaced. I mean, since this is going to be, we need to make sure this engine is refreshed and good. So I have right now a list of all the torque specs already written down right there. So for you guys later, you guys will see that, but I wrote down all my torque specs. So when we get to that point, we will, what's the word? Give you all the information so you can reference it later. I will be posting it on what's it called? Oh, geez. I will be posting a link down below on the description so you guys can download the specs and everything. If you guys actually want the actual specs and where I got them from, I actually got them from my Bentley manual. If you actually, I'll add a link to my Google Drive as well so you guys can download the Bentley manual figures and everything so you can see exactly what we're doing as another reference. So first things first, to remove the rear main seal, you're going to need a 10 millimeter socket. You're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts. What you're going to see too is since the rear main seal is actually attached to the oil pan, so there's 2 more bolts actually down below. So when you see these 6, it's deceiving because you have 2 more. So it's technically 8 bolts in total. So get your 10 mil, get an extension, and welcome to everybody who just joined in. So these bolts actually don't go on very tight. They only go on with 11 foot-pounds. So remember that. That is your first torque spec of the night. 11 foot-pounds. Now what's going to happen, you better make sure you drain all the oil because if not, you have a risk of dropping stuff. If you guys can hear me, please comment on there because I don't know if my mic is working or not. Just give me guys a comment really quick if you guys can hear me. Awesome. Thank you. Now, I can see your guys' comments, so if you guys have any questions while I work, please feel free to ask, and I will do my best to answer you guys, okay? Because I can see you guys from over here on my my laptop, so. The part number for this guy, because I used as much German parts as I can, so we're going to be using Miley. You guys can see right here, part number is 10010311010. They call this the crankshaft seal. I call it rear main seal. You guys can see it's a German part, so you actually get the proper tools for this one to install it correctly so it doesn't freak out on the install and mess up when you install it. And then are you replacing the timing belt as well? Yes, sir. Timing belt is being replaced. That's all part of the DIY. So, and the reason why it's doing it outside the car is you guys can see how it's done. I already have a DIY on how to do it in the car. Outside the car, I have it as well, but I don't have a high quality one, so that's why I'm doing this. Now, one thing you guys are going to have to understand, these are going to be a little bit more difficult to remove because they're covered in RTV. So when you reinstall the rear main seal, you're going to have to put new RTV in it as well. And this is, I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. You'll see here. See, this is all RTV on here. And what happens, what people don't realize, what happens is when you don't clean out the studs, the bolts, and you install them back in, there's RTV on the end of this. So what happens is that fills in that little bolt, that hole, and creates a pressure. And if you put too much RTV in here, you can actually crack that due to the pressure, you know. So be very careful. Clean out your threads as often as you can. Doesn't hurt you, so why not? Damn it. Now the timing belt and all that's probably the easiest part of the job tonight. The hard one is actually removing the cams and getting that actually timed correctly in the motor. That's one of the hardest parts of this job because you're changing positions of everything. It's kind of weird, but I'll show you what I mean. So let's get this rear main seal done as fast as we can. It doesn't leak. I shouldn't replace it, but I'm going to since it's probably really, really old. Here again, another example. All that RTV just gunked up in here. You got to take that out. All right, so next thing is you're going to need a flathead screwdriver. If I can find one. There we go. Not flathead, but close enough. I gotta go get my flathead. Be right back. Oh, it's right here. Awesome. I don't believe. There we go. So that's the rear main seal pretty much off. You're going to try to do your best to get this metal cover off. But this one's probably going to be stuck on it. Bent too hard over here, so I got to leave it alone. So once you get the seal off, just like that. The next thing you're going to need to do is throw that away because you don't need it anymore. Get yourself a nice little razor blade. Nice clean razor blade. And with your razor blade, you'll see here where the old RTV that got packed on like crazy by whoever did the job on this, which is way too much RTV. I don't know who did the job on this this motor, so you're supposed to use legitimately just like the thinnest like layer of RTV possible. You put too much RTV and you're guaranteed to leak and not be on here evenly. So I hate when other mechanics do work and they call themselves mechanics and they just suck at what they do, man. You know, it's such a botched job. I don't call myself a mechanic. I call myself a do-it-yourselfer. Even though I'm pretty good at what I do, I still don't call myself a mechanic, though. Now my goal here is not to push any of the old RTV into the actual pan, because you don't want this in your freaking oil pan. Look at this. This is the inside bead. Ridiculous. This should not be that much RTV on this thing, dude. Not at all. We got a comment here. Let me see what it says here. Did you happen to get my email about the valve body of the 03 Jetta Wolfsburg? Donna, no, I did not get that email. If you want to send it to me again, I just went through all my emails like not even 20 minutes ago before I started, so I did not see any email there. Email me again. I'll do the best I can to help you. Sorry about this part, guys, but this is a very slow part. But this is very vital to your success and putting a new rear main seal. If you've never done one, this is like the most, legitimately the most important part of installing a rear main seal. Is making sure this whole entire thing is cleaned out properly. And there's another sign of too much RTV. Telling you. Look at this. This was inside. You guys can see that. The bolt hole. That should not be inside your bolt hole. So these are little tricks of the trade that you guys should already be doing if you've been watching most of my videos, guys. Now, if you do get some inside the oil pan, what you're going to need to do is to flush it out. And to flush it out, you're going to need to just, when you put the engine in, back in the car, just get a quart of oil and just pour it in like as fast as you can, and let it drain through, and see if you get some of the chunks out by draining it through the drain plug. If not, you're kind of SOL. If you get too much in there, you're gonna have to drop the pan and then clean out the oil pickup to fix all that. So we're pretty dang clean now. There's a couple little spots that you got to just rub off with your fingernail if you can. That's very, very clean. Around the rear main seal, there's not much you can do. You can tidy it up, just clean it. Around the crank though, this right here, you want to clean this as good as you can before you do your install. Around that. Now, since we're reinstalling a rear main seal, as per the Bentley manual, you'll see this is why you don't need a lot of RTV. We will talk about that. I got your email, David. I'll get to you in a little bit. I've just been super busy. No worries, though, David. I will talk to you, okay? So you'll see here at the bottom of the rear main seal, there's already a seal right here. There's a rubber seal that prevents the oil from coming out. So what you want, unfortunately, the edges, if you see these corners right here and over here, there's no rubber end. So there's no way to prevent the oil from leaking. From not leaking. So you're supposed to put a tiny bead of RTV around that metal portion. That is it. You're not supposed to cover it and slam it with all that oil. Now they give you this cool little tool. You see this plastic insert. This allows you to put the seal on and you tap it in a circle, and it should slide right in without you actually damaging the actual ring of the rear main seal. So very, very cool tool that comes already pre-installed on the actual part. So the next thing is I'm going to grab some RTV. Just give me a second here so we can get that going. I have some already here on the side. Got to grab it. There's a turbo. Don't need a turbo. I don't have it in here. I'll be right back. It's left in my toolbox. All right, I didn't find my RTV, so I'll have to figure something out really quick here. And I know it's like right here, but sorry guys. Just give me a moment. I know it's like right here. On top of my pile of stuff. Here it is. See? Now this RTV is special. See this one right here? This is OEM RTV. It's actually in German. It's by L Ring. You guys see that right there? This is good stuff. I got this actually from a friend of mine that works at the VW dealership, and this is the RTV they use on everything pretty much. This is OEM pretty much specification RTV. Best stuff you can get for your Mark IV or actually Volkswagen. Downside is the freaking hole for it already dried up. So I gotta make a new hole and apply RTV without making a mess. So there's my amount of RTV. Like this is it. Not much of anything, guys. So what you do, you apply it as thin as possible onto the actual gasket here on the metal side. Get a little bit more. Now you want it slightly thicker on the edges because that's where the issue is going to be residing on these rear main seals, is these corners. And that's it, guys. I mean, there's no reason to put a freaking pound of RTV on these things. All RTVs that are oil based are a 24-hour cure. Okay. These have a 24-hour cure time, so you cannot put your rear main seal and go to work and try to drive the car, because if not, you're going to start leaking oil, and then all that work pretty much for nothing. If you want to, and if you feel comfortable, whatever residual RTV you have on your fingers, you can lay it on the actual block here, just to help provide a nicely better seal, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. But don't lay it on like you did onto the actual rear main seal itself. The reason why, because you'll end up having too much RTV. And what happens with your RTV, if you saw over here, like we pulled out all that remains, it ends up pressurizing and squeezing more out versus doing what it's supposed to do, which is seal. So it kind of loses its purpose. So that's it, guys. I mean, that's honestly it for this portion right here. Grab this, and you'll see all the RTVs just slide on, very thin bead. And then you're going to put this on. Now, you got a couple ways of doing this. I'm going to try sliding it on like this and see if that works. This looks like it didn't. All right, so let's try this again. There we go. That went on beautifully. And that's the beauty of this tool. Rear main seals installed. Super, super easy. And then put your bolts back on. Now, your torque spec for your rear main seal. Torque spec rear main seal is 11 foot-pounds. Okay. Now, we actually put in 2 bolts underneath because they're your oil pan bolts. So remember, clean the threads. Same spec for the actual bolt underneath. Come on. That one is not in 100%. Let's see what's going on here. A little love tap here. All right, there we go. So 11 foot-pounds, top and bottom. They do not require a thread locker, so do not use it. If for any reason you guys want to use a thread locker, at least use green thread lock. Don't use anything stronger than green. I don't recommend any to begin with, but for your guys' peace of mind, put green, I guess, or blue, Loctite. You want the weakest stuff possible, pretty much. Hey, Wayne, I know it's not a hammer, but it's just to tap it in. Not supposed to hammer it in. But it's a blunt object, so it works just like a hammer. So what you're going to do is you're going to tighten everything down. Now what you want to do is tighten it down slowly until you feel it bottom out. And then just like a wheel, just go opposites. You don't need to, like I said, be all drastic about it, but tighten everything down just so you feel it bottom out. And then pop in your other two down below. Look how much easier. I can actually put these in by hand now. Because they're not freaking soaked in RTV. Same thing. Tighten these down just to the bottom. We're not torquing them yet. And that's it. Get your torque wrench. Right here. Let's see, for Wayne. I just started my two. Oh, hell yeah, dude. 2-hole stroker. It's going to be a beefy one. We're thinking about doing a stroker on my wife's Mark II. Not there yet. So set your torque specs to 11 foot-pounds. And same thing, reverse it. That's 11. 11. We'll go here. 11. There we go. Now me, I like to do everything twice, so double check. Now we're not torquing these. We just want to make sure that everything's set to 11 foot-pounds. I like to double check. People don't like this method, but I don't care what they think. I've been doing this method for years, never have a problem. So the last thing you need to do, and this is why I mean, you don't need a lot of RTV, and here's a close-up why. Let me show you guys why. You saw how much little we put on there, and look how much of it came out. So what you want to do is kind of push it back in. And you'll see a lot of it actually came out. That's it. We just did a rear main seal. That easy. Super cool. All right, so rear main seal is completely done. Congratulations. We just learned how to do it together. Freaking awesome. Now let's do the other side. So let's turn this engine around because we're going to do timing. First, we got to time the car to TDC. And then, I'm not the car, the engine, the TDC. And then we're going to take out the cams. So your box is now trashed. So one box gone. I'm excited. Now let's turn this sucker around and work on the next side. All right. So for this part, we're going to have to strap this guy down nice and tight just to crank it and set everything so we can take the top off. So I took all this off for no reason. Let's see here. I don't want to damage the paint. I'm going to give my friend a nice clean motor and want to make sure the motor's clean, you know? So now this is going to be the part that everybody's afraid of, is timing or set timing on an engine, because it's scary, because you could definitely mess up an entire engine if you don't know how to time it. But at the same time, I think it's the most fun part, because you get to crank an engine over. You're doing actual, like, you're playing with the mechanics of it, which is super cool. So it makes me a little excited. Sorry, guys, I get excited for some of the hardest stuff on these things, and I love it because it's a challenge, and I love being challenged. That means my brain has to work. I love using my brain. All right. So now that we're on here, so this guy is safe. Now I want to show you guys a couple pointers. Give you guys a couple pointers here on the timing. Number one, there's a special socket you need to crank it, and it's a 19 millimeter. I think it's a 12-point socket, if you guys can see that. It's the only way you can get it on the actual gear here to crank it over. Now there's clockwise and counterclockwise. You always crank your engine clockwise, never crank it counter, okay? That's your first tip. Your second one is that socket. Get yourself a nice little breaker bar. Not a big one. So you're going to get your breaker bar and you're going to crank your engine in pretty much circles. But before you do, take out the spark plugs. If you don't take out the spark plugs, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to crank this sucker over. I typically take out the first two. You don't need all four of them to come out. And you actually don't even need to take them out completely. Just unbolt them. Just so the air and the pressure doesn't build up into the block. This does not damage the engine. Just so you guys know. Oh, I can do all four, so I might as well. So remove all the spark plugs. Okay, that's done. So now I'm going to give you guys a close-up here. You guys can see this really quick. So there's two timing marks. Two, okay? Remember that, guys. One here, right on the valve cover. So you got to have the valve cover on right here on the top. And the one that matches or mates with this one is right here. You guys see that right there. There's a notch on the actual cam gear. Now there's a tricky one that most people forget, and this is a hard one. You have a timing cover here, this metal timing cover. If you guys can see, and it's hard to see, but there's a little notch right here. That's your other timing point, and the only way you can use that one is actually having your harmonic balancer installed. So we're going to do that right now. And you guys on here, so remember, spot here, here, and here for you guys on the high quality recording. All right, freaking live, guys. First thing we're going to do is line up the first one. Watch the first one crank over. Remember, we're going clockwise. So we're just going to go as slow as we can and just pay attention to the points. So crank this guy over. Keep going. If I repeat myself, it's because of the other video. All right. So now we're pretty much mated right here. So these 2 points are pretty much touching right now, or on par with each other. Now, if you want to make sure you're timed 100%, find your balancer, which I don't even know where I put it. Let's see here. It's the biggest pulley here. Where'd it go? Where did it go? Oh, I think it's still on the engine. The old engine. Give me a second here, guys. Yep, still on the old engine. Okay, we're gonna need to take that one off right now. Let me get that sucker off for you guys in just a minute, and then I'll show you guys what to do, okay? Just give me a break right now. Take a little, nice little break at the moment. Let's see here. Oh man, sucks having no workspace and doing everything on the floor. Yep, Wayne, that is correct. Marks are never 100%. However, they are the best bet for anything to be installed on these engines. That's why they give you about a tooth. I say about a tooth of play in general for that reason. You're never going to be 100% on these, but you're pretty dang close. That's for sure. All right, let me just take off these 4 bolts so I can show you guys. Well, we're out of luck on that one. Got one that's not very friendly, so it's gonna be an interesting one to get out. Give me just a second here. One of them stripped, so it's gonna be fun. Hey, this is all live, guys. It happens to everyone. Got it. Woo! All right. All right, got it off, so give me a moment. I'll show you guys the pulley. Oh, man. Almost pooped myself there. Did not want to try to drill that one out. All right, back to what we were doing. Back to work. All right, so just reading all your guys' comments. Sorry, guys. All right, so you'll see here. Here's your harmonic balancer, and there's a little. Where is it? Here it is. Hard to see, but you'll see right there. That's the timing mark for your balancer. All right. So this only goes on one way. So that's how you know this is installed correctly. You slap this sucker on and you turn it until all the holes line up. Now what you want to do and don't want to do is install this too tight. But you want to install it so the marks line up. So I'm going to put 3 out of the 4 because 1 is not being very friendly out of the 4 holes. So what we're going to do is just give it a little, just a little tug. Nothing crazy, guys. Just a little tug. Make it snug. All right. Now, for you guys here, what we're talking about timing and how they never line up 100%. This is what we mean. And I'm going to give you another close-up. But first I'm going to show you these guys first. You'll see timing is off right there, but is on point here. I'm going to show you guys what I mean. Come back over here. So timing marks are almost exact here and here. But if you come down below, you'll see they're slightly off. It's kind of hard to see. They're off by like legitimately like 1 degree if you're lucky. So what we're going to do is we're going to crank this guy over. We're going to line up this timing mark first and then see what this one does or how much of it's being affected. So now this is time. This is now correctly, and this didn't even move. So that means we are at TDC. And how do I know we're in TDC? Obviously the marks, but when your engine's set to TDC, there's actually no movement between the pistons left and right. There's actually about a tooth of space or play, aka play, between that timing mark. And the way that you know is that you'll crank it and there's no movement for the piston up and down. I can give you guys a visual representation of that on the other engine, but I think we're good for now. Just want to tell you guys that. I can show you guys later when I get to that point. So I know for a fact now we're set to TDC. If you're really, really uncomfortable and you're not 100% sure you're set, do it again. Spin the engine completely around 2 times, because 1 revolution puts you on the other stroke, on the exhaust stroke, and 1 full revolution, 2 full revolutions will put you back on an intake stroke, which where you're supposed to be back on TDC on cylinder number 1. So now that we're set, we're going to leave it here, set it, and forget it. You don't need to worry about it now. Now we got to take that harmonic balancer off. The reason why I have to take it off because it covers the timing components. So that's all in the way, and we can't have that. So now that's set. Leave that behind and not worry about it. So now your timing cover here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 10mm bolts. Need to get those out. I love how you guys chit chat upon one another, which is great. This just shows that you guys are willing to help each other and talk about cars. I mean, that's what we're here for. All about cars and learn something. People from around the world talking to one another and not caring about race, politics, where you live, because we all have one thing in common, and that's just the love of VWs. I love it. It's just awesome. Now, every bolt that you remove from here on, you got to keep it all together. These are all vital components of your job. All right, so timing cover comes off. And now it exposes your timing setup. You have your water pump, your hydraulic tensioner, your belt manual tensioner, your crank pulley, your cam pulley, and your belt. These are all part of your timing. So first things first, to get the belt off, just unbolt the water pump. Will be your number 1 thing to do. This might spill water. I don't know. The engine has been dry for a little while. I say about 6 months. But it's been covered, so it might spill some water. And the reason why I say do the water pump is because it has the least impact on the belt from moving. Wayne, yes, we all learn the hard way. That's how we learn. But the good thing is I'm around and I can teach you guys some more. So now the water pump is coming off. We got the 3 main bolts for that off. Right here. Same process. Grab your flathead screwdriver, if I can find it. Here we go. And it's got a little spot right here you can use to pry on. Am I missing a bolt? No, it should be 3. 1, 2, and number 3. It's being problematic. Let me see if I can. No, that's not going to work. Okay, so let me see if I can get this guy off. Usually this just pops right off, and it's not popping right off. This has probably been on here for quite some time. There we go. Now, you can see here, water pump has been removed. It still moves pretty freely, so that means it's still in good shape. But we're not going to use that. We never reuse timing components. So, belt comes off. We are no longer timed. So, that's all done. That belt is useless. We're no longer allowed to use that belt. What you want to do next is check for any type of weird debris and whatnot in this area. And just put a rag in there and clean it all up. It's got a little bit of rust, but I mean, what's going to happen? You know, it's a cast iron block. You're going to build rust. Let's see here. Now, you have another seal here on the crank. This seal is not easy to remove and install because you have to remove the crank gear. So we're not replacing that, but there is no oil leak for that. So we're good on that part. Now we're going to remove the tensioner pulley here and the actual tensioner as well. This is also called a roller. Just so you guys know, this is a roller pulley, idler pulley, or tensioner pulley, and your cam gear. Let's see here. Sweet baby Jesus. Where's this at? 8. There we go. That's not supposed to go on that tight, but it is. These only go on with like 20 something pounds, so that's over tightened for sure. Anything that comes off of this, make sure you guys keep everything together. We're not reusing it. We're just using it just for the fact that we need a way to remember the assembly process when we take stuff out and when we reinstall the new components. So the tensioner itself has 2 10mm bolts, one behind it and one right here in front of it. So remember that. Now this is the part where most people are in either panic mode or they're just scared now because the engine's not connected anymore. So this is where people start to freak out when they start working on their own car and their engine, because now this is separate from this, and now these two components no longer work with each other. The good thing is we set this at TDC and this at TDC. However, we're taking this apart. So the head is not the head, but the cams are coming out right now. So we're going to take that out in just a moment. But before you do, you have to actually, the cam gear has to come off after you take everything off. So you guys know, so you can remove the actual cam seal, because there's two cam seals in here. And both of these seals will come off when the actual, when we take the cams out, and I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. So let me get you guys going there. So let me get you guys a little bit higher. And for everybody that's tuned in and watching this, thank you guys. Thank you for watching and enjoying what we're doing together. I hope you guys are learning something, because I want you guys all to learn with me. If it's something old, something new, and I get to learn with you guys as well. This is awesome. So now we're here to the scary part. Yes, I call this a scary part because most people will freak out in doing this. And when I mean freak out, because you're going to start seeing mechanical parts, you know? So we're going to unbolt the actual engine now. This engine will now be set free. The valve cover isn't bolted on, so we're just going to pull this off. And reveal the actual head and the cams. So what you see here, you're going to see splashers. You're going to see exhaust cam. When you take the splashers off, you see an intake cam. Now, this is the part what you have to do and be extremely critical on what you're doing, because this is probably the most difficult part here. Okay? This is harder than doing, what's it called? Oh my goodness. Than doing the timing, because you have to set everything on point. Now, you're going to have all these bolts. You'll see here, 1, 2, you have 2, 2, 2, 2, all sets of 2, 2, same here. And then you have these caps, all in the same order. These have to go back the same way they come off, and have to go on in a very, very specific order. They cannot just go back on and just bolt everything down. What's going to happen if you do that, these surfaces are machined perfectly, so everything sits in a very specific manner. For any reason this manner is disrupted and not set the way it's supposed to be, you will, guarantee you, damage or score your cam, scuff it up, and you'll have some issues or some crazy weird wear down the road. Be pre-warned. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not the easiest part. This is actually the hardest part of anything I've ever done on a 1.8T. I know it's crazy to say that, but it is. Doing cams is actually harder than putting an engine together. I know that's weird, but that's what I think. Okay. See you guys over here talking up a storm. So I'll be right back with my Torx bits to get this sucker taken off. All the wrong size. Need to go smaller. Gee, Willikers, way too small. You putting stock cams in it, Christopher? And for your stroker build, I would probably do 267 cams, intake and exhaust. Actually, if you really want to, hit up SPA Turbo, the Brazilian white website. Go to google.com and just go Google their website, SPA Turbo, and get their cams. They just made like 15, 20 extra horsepower with their cams with a big turbo setup. Just FYI. Got the right one now. Stupid Torx bits. There we go. All right. Now, so this is a 30. So we're gonna, okay, so for you guys asking, putting stock cams, no, we're not putting, we're keeping the same cams. We're just doing a new tensioner, a new hydraulic tensioner, Halfmoon seal, and the tensioner gasket, because this engine has over 100,000 miles, so you need to actually replace that. For all you guys with stock engines and never done any maintenance on the cam tensioner, if you're over 100,000 miles and have no idea if that's been serviced or not, replace it. And this is the DIY on how to do it. So pretty much just remove all the bolts. You don't need to do it in any specific pattern. But you don't want to take them off completely. Just unbolt everything. Like, just break them loose. But we're not taking them off. We're just breaking everything loose. And you notice there's a ton of bolts here. So it's a slow process. For Wayne, SPA Turbo is the name of the company, but you're going to have to go to the Brazilian website. SPA Turbo, I think, just Google it, you'll find them. They have a US website, but I don't think they have their cams available in the United States. So you have to order them from Brazil. But their cams make a lot of power for the price. I think the full set of cams is like $300 or $400. And for all you guys asking about, oh, should I put cams in? No. If your car is stock, don't waste your money. You won't make any power with just cams. I mean, you'll help breathe intake and exhaust, but it's legitimately a waste of money. And if you don't have the valve train to support aggressive cams, you will guarantee you float a valve and you're done. You end up burning oil like a mother or bending a valve like crazy. If you don't know what floating a valve means, wiki it, please. You'll learn. What's going on, Banging 35HZS? How's it going? Okay, so now that I got everything broken loose, holy crap, that's super cheap for an AEB head. Congrats. Now you'll notice I'm not taking the bolt out at all. David, I am going to do a VR6, not in a GTI, but we're going to do it in a Corrado. So stay tuned for that because that's going to be super cool. Now you'll see we took the valve cover off, and now what I'm doing just right now, we're just breaking all the bolts loose. So just break all the bolts loose. Do not remove the bolts. Just take them all, just break them all loose. Just don't take them off. Just break them loose, and all the way to the out. Pretty much remove them almost completely, but do not remove them. That way to keep everything in order. Okay. Sorry, doing the video. For Christopher, well, stay tuned on my YouTube channel for season 6. Well, for actually everybody watching right now, for season 6 of Pinchy House Garage, we're giving away a Corrado. So if you really want a Corrado, subscribe, hit up my Patreon and everything because we're going to be giving one away. So enjoy that because you can win one, and it's going to be a fully built Corrado. And you'll see what I mean once you actually see season 6. Now you'll start seeing the cam to lift because the spring and the tensioner underneath where the valves are pushing the cams now up, which is good. Yeah, that's why I said to open up in Chrome, Wayne. That way you can open up using the translator. You'll be good. That's how I found it. See? It pays to pay attention, Wayne. Whew, my arms are getting tired. Almost done, though. Yeah, AEB heads are pretty much the holy grail of heads for 1.8Ts because if you did no modifications to the head and just did just the head by itself, and you just did everything stock on an AEB head, just stock valve, stock cams, and everything, it's an instant 10 to 20 horsepower. That's it. You know, it all depends on what setup you have, but it's an instant 20 horsepower. Now, if you actually had that head ported, polished, and all the valves done right, you can make immense amount of power with just an AEB head. I know there's a guy on Vortex. I know I'm talking like a dinosaur, but there's a guy on Vortex with the KO3 AEB head, full E85, cams, tunes, valves, I mean porting. He made 300 wheel horsepower on a stock turbo, which is insane. Like just insane amount of power for a stock turbo, you know. And he did it just to prove a lot of people that you can do it. It's just not smart. You know, with a stock turbo. Obviously he changed up his setup, but he just did that to prove to people, you know, you can do it. You know, a stock turbo on a Mark IV, aggressively tuned with all your bolt-ons and E85, I think 240. I think 240, and that's like pushing the, I mean, legitimately the limits of that turbo. David Hernandez, how come I don't do that? Well, you know, I don't know if you've seen what I do, but I work with everything with Harbor Freight tools. And when you see me working with Harbor Freight tools, it gives you one thing: I'm poor. And my arms are free. So yeah, that's probably why I don't have that tool. You know, a normal ratchet's like 20 bucks, and I don't have to worry about batteries or buying anything for it, and it's done. I understand battery operating and whatnot, but I mean, I don't have a lot of money. So this is what I do on a budget, buddy. It's what I do on a budget. Yeah. Yeah, man. I wish I had the money. I wouldn't hate it. I'd love it. Why do you think I do everything myself? I don't pay anybody to do my work. Save money. Spend the money where it matters. I know I'd be done pulling all these out in like a matter of seconds. But where's the fun in that? I don't get to talk to you guys. All right, so here is now your next super vital vital points here now. The cams are coming out. Now, before you take the cams out, the caps have to come out. These guys, these little guys right here. Now, what you're going to do, yeah, man, I work on cars all the time, but it's just, I don't see that expense for myself. My arms are free. You know, I sound like a broken record, but that's just that's how I am, man. Eventually, one day when I start making money and saying, hey, yeah, let's go do that, I'll do it. I'll buy all the electric tools that money can buy. Right now, hand tools are just fine. So I just got a piece of cardboard. You guys can see that. And what we're going to do is lay our exhaust and intake caps all in order the way you take them off. The way they go off is the way they go back on. So cam cap number 1 is on its way out right now. before I take it out, I got to take the seal out. All right, that one's going to wait. So this is the intake cap. Number 1. You see that? And you're going to put your order that way. Just the way you take it off, you put it back on. All right? Cap number 2. Three. 4. And number 5. Okay, repeat the process for the exhaust side. Exhaust for number 1. Now the reason why they're smaller on the exhaust side is because there's less valves on the exhaust side. Number 2, number 3. You have what? 15 valves? No, 12 valves on the intake and 8 valves on the exhaust, aka 20 valve 1.18. So those are all done. So now you got all those set. So now let's go back onto here. So now all the valves are, all the caps are gone. Now, the next tricky part is that we got the rear and the front. The front, since we got this one off, that cam can come out like nothing. This cam, I forgot to take the gear off. So to take the gear off, we can't take it off now. We got to take it off when the engine's actually, when that's all out. So what we're going to do is try to take out the cam. The cam seal. There we go. Just like that. And now this is the front side. So you remember, wherever way you take it off, you put it back on your little pile. So now our cams are completely taken apart. The only thing that's technically keeping things together are the chains, the chain. Now, this is where it becomes a very, very precise process. Now, on here, on your cams, on the exhaust and intake side, on the exhaust, there's a little notch, and on the intake, there's a notch as well. These notches, the one on the exhaust side is off to the left, and the one on the intake is actually centered straight up. Just like that, off to the left, center straight up. And then what you do, you count 16 chain links from there to there, meaning not the first one, but the second one. So in between, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now, 16 will be off to the right, and 1 will be one inward to the left, to the right as well. So each link will be off to the right, not to the left. I know it's a little confusing, but that's pretty much the chain count for these guys. And if you remember that, you'll never mess up the timing on this ever. The nice thing is, since it's chain ran, once you have it set to that spacing, it's impossible to get it out of it. I know it's kind of confusing, but bear with me. So remember, on the exhaust cam, there's a notch. That notch is off to the right. And that link right above it to the right is link number 1. So right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. The 16th link is off to the right of the notch that's actually vertically straight up. Okay, that's how you know this is set 100% to time. Okay, I know it's kind of odd, but we're going to take now the cams out because we're going to have to put a new tensioner back in and get it all taken care of. All right. Now, for the tensioner, we got a kit. The kit comes with cam seals, valve cover seal. Yes, I will zoom in just a bit, but I need you guys to see this kit so you guys can get it. Here's the part number right there, 917021. This has everything you need to do this job on the head for doing your cams. The hydraulic cam tensioner has to be replaced every 100,000 miles as if the engine's not warm or like done 100%. I will zoom in for you, don't worry, but I recommend that you guys change this as often as possible. Like timing belts, 60 to 75,000 miles. Hydraulic cam tensioner, most people will replace it to 120 to 130,000 miles. That's okay, but that's pushing it. I like to replace this every 100K. It's a cheap fit. It's a cheap, not cheap, but expensive, but life-saving part. So I will zoom in for you guys in just right now. Okay. And all right. So we're going to look on the exhaust cam first. And you'll see here, there's the notch that I'm talking about. And you'll notice it's off to the right. Okay. Now that is off to the right. So this link right here is link number 1. Right there. From here, you're going to count all the way to 16. Right here. Onto the intake side. And you'll notice there's a notch right there. That notch is straight up and the link is off to the right. That's how you know there's a proper amount of links in between the chain of the cams. If one is off by 1 tooth on the left or right, your timing will be off and you will bend a valve. Hopefully that works for you guys. Now for everybody over here in high quality YouTube. So I'm going to repeat myself, sorry. So once the cam caps are removed and we put them in order from exhaust intake, left to right or right to left, the way you have it set up here, you're going to go all the way over here to the cam, and you'll see here on this cam, on the exhaust side, the notch is off to the right. This notch, the link off to the right is 16 over. This notch will be vertically or 90 degrees straight up, and the notch to the right should be the link number 16. So if we're counting this correctly, this notch to the right, that's link number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And that is 16. That's all that matters is 16 in between. Anything else doesn't really matter. As long as you have those links correctly counted and set up this way, this will be timed 100%. What do you need to know, Braden, about your ATW 1.8T? What car is that in? Oh. All right, so now the cams are completely unbolted. We're gonna move to the floor and put them on the floor to show you guys what to do next. So what you're going to do, how you grab these, grab them from the middle, and you're going to try to pull straight up just like that as one solid piece. See that? Put them on the ground. I'll get you guys back down to the ground. Give me a second here, guys. I know it's all bumpy and whatnot, but it's the way it works. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome, me. So now the cams are pretty much off of here. And remember what we talked about. So what you're going to need to do is just like slide one of these guys off with a tensioner, pop it off. Now the tensioner has a VVT sensor on it right here that has 2 bolts. You're going to need to reinstall, remove and reinstall, okay? Now this is also a really, really good sign that this needs to be replaced. And you'll see on the tensioner itself, there's groove marks in here. You see that? That means that it's been digging in for a while. It's a good time to replace it. Now, if you didn't change or move the chains at all, like at all on here, leave it alone. Don't touch it. Get your new tensioner. Okay. And you'll see here, it has the tool already installed for you to keep the tension down. And it actually has a new sensor installed. So I don't need to actually remove anything on this one. So this one's pretty much ready to go. And you need to make sure this is sticking out, not in. And then you're going to hoop it into the chain right here. If I can get it to go. If it'll let me. If not, we can do it the hard way. Oh, there we go. Now it's off. Now we got to put some work into it. All right, let me get off my chair. Get back on here. Okay. So, just the way I was talking, one link over to the right, and then this chain. This thing's a pain in the rear to install, so here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15. So I'm off by 1. So now you gotta count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So now we're exact. We're back where we were. And then this goes up. Okay. So now we gotta see if we're timed again. It looks like we're really off now. This is where it becomes the hard part. With one person, it's not very fun to do because this stuff likes to move around, and it's not very efficient with one person. Oh man. And this is where I hate doing this job here. I wish I had Ray here to help me. We had this in and out within like 10 minutes. All right, back to counting again. One, two, three, 16. Okay, we're correct here on chain length. It's just getting the chain to be tensioned is the issue. All right, now we're in. Thank you. Okay, so now we have everything set. And what we're gonna do is where it sucks. You're gonna grab the cam and chain, and you're gonna grab it back and kind of put it back in its place without nicking and damaging anything. So we're going back up and we're going to look at the cam install here. Now I got the tensioner back on. You guys can watch. All right. Yeah, you can do that too. You don't have to. As long as you count it, you're fine. So now we're on here. The cams are in place. Now what you have to do is kind of put some tension, like pressure on it. And you're going to count again. Remember, the notch here on the left, on the exhaust side, has to have one link to the right in between it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now we got to crank this because I'm going to confirm it. Oh, because here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Right above it, one right to the right of it. We are timed. That is it. You don't need to do anything else for that. Use the old bolts that we took out. One here. Now the next step is the Halfmoon seal. The one that goes underneath it. And all the other gaskets. But right now, you don't have to touch it. You're done. That part is pretty much done. Don't touch anything else because the other part is trash now. So we're set with that. And you'll notice the chains are kind of sagging right here in the middle. Why? Because these aren't pushed down yet. Once you push them down and they're actually under tension, the cam will actually pull to the right on each right and left and put proper tension on the chain. That's what matters, is that tension is there. when you're actually tightening this thing down, and without you taking the actual tool off. The tool will come off in just a minute. That tool is just to keep the tensioner itself sprung down so you can actually do the job. Because what I'm going to do is get all this bolted back on, and then I have to remove this this cam bracket, and then I can get that off of there. But without putting everything down and marked, we can't do that. Because we got to put a new seal there and a new seal here. Okay. So now that we have that, let's see what are we gonna do next. Oh yes, the seals over here. I think I lost my train of thought. Okay. Halfmoon seal. Very, very common failing seal. Check. And cam tensioner or hydraulic tensioner gasket right here. Check. Now, before these are installed, you have to clean that area that you pretty much removed and get those gaskets out and then pop in the new ones. This one does not require RTV except for the edges right here when you install that. This one for sure does not require any RTV. This is pretty much, this is it. This actual gasket has built-in pressurized RTV. This is heat activated. You don't do anything with this one. You just install it, tighten it, and forget it. That's it. Done. Don't worry about it. So I'm going to get on the other side and get that going really quick. Wow, this actually doesn't even have the Halfmoon seal installed. Impressive. Oh, it does. Okay, I see it now. It's further back. So right now I'm just cleaning up the gasket here and cleaning up the area where this these gaskets are. Yeah, this stuff goes. You always want to do that before you install anything. And since these seals don't actually use adhesive, you just put a little bit of RTV, like I was saying, on the corners with a Halfmoon seal, and that's it. You don't do anything special. So let me get my RTV really quick. There it is. I know I got a horrible mess, but it's a controlled mess. Remember on the seals, less is more on the RTV. Okay, we're still timed. Now, this is where you start tightening things down on this side. This does not affect the cams. So that's all done. Just put everything down to spec. Everything down here is 7 foot-pounds, guys. Remember that 7 foot-pounds is what you need for all the cam bolts. So now we're tightening these guys down. Now that Halfmoon seal will give you trouble because it is a rubbery gasket that's gonna try to seal up a rubber, like not a rubber, but a rounded area. So it does put tension on that area. So be forewarned. It will not go on without a challenge. And since this is bolted down, you'll notice there's actually legit tension on the chain here. And just double check, quadruple, quintuple, how many triples your work. I honestly just got to tell you, just keep doing it. So notch link to the right, that's considered 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And that's right above the notch. Not to the right of it, but right above it. So we are timed. So now we cannot put the cam seals yet until I actually get this bolt off. And to get this bolt off, we have to be able to hold this and pry in a different way to get that off. So that's going to be a tricky one for us. I actually might get everything timed, everything installed and timed, and then probably put the seal on afterwards so I can just take it off. That way I won't damage anything. I think that would be the smartest thing to do. So this guy right here, there's actually a special spot you got to put some RTV on, and there's still stuff on here. So what you need to do, you'll see here there's an oil buildup here in this passage. Same with this passage and this one. You need to actually clean those passages up so that it flows freely. And you don't want to scrape them. You got to get a cloth and just kind of just scrape them with your fingernail. Those are pressure relief ducts right here. So if there's too much grind buildup, then by all means give it a try with the screwdriver. Just be careful not to nick the aluminum, because you'll end up causing an oil leak that's probably not going to be repairable. Hey, babe. Come on.
I packed that one. I packed that one.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I picked 50 stickers.
50?
Mm-hmm. Let me finish the other 2 and I'll be done.
Okay.
Is there more?
Not tonight, but yes, there will be more.
What's that one?
Just another 5.
This?
Yeah.
Just 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll do that too.
Okay.
You're almost done?
No, but I'll get done as fast as I can.
What are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm almost done with the cams. I think I can stop there.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm just going to finish this up.
Okay, babe. Now on this one, on this cap right here, one thing you're gonna notice is when you get these on, where is it? Okay, they go on right here. Now, as per the Bentley manual, it does request that there's RTV on here. These two seals right here, the one on the exhaust cam and on the intake cam you can do right here, right on the spot, but the exhaust cam, you have to take off the actual gear. No, you have to actually take off the gear itself. So the way I'm going to do this job is I'm going to install the cams, finish the install of the cams, and then put the timing belt on so that way it cranks, and I can lock the actual motor with the bottom bolt of the crank, and that way I can break loose this sucker. So the Halfmoon over here, if you wanted to do the install on this without taking the cams off, you can. What you need to do is there's a special tool. You'll see this right here that puts a tension on the actual chain to you can give. It gives you enough play to pop out that seal and the gasket underneath there. You need this tool though. There's a special thread hole down below where that tool mounts into, so you can put tension onto the tensioner. So the chain has some play, so you can actually do that. You do have to unbolt this whole entire area to do that, obviously, because you're swapping the gasket out. But that's what that tool is for. Just FYI. Just for your information. So, oh yeah, back to RTV. So down here, there is a couple spots you can RTV. And it's hard to show you. It's very, very minimal. We'll get to that. So these are machined pretty much perfectly. So you don't require RTV. However, since these are now removed, you have to RTV them. If this was machined again, like if this was brand new and we decked the head, like we machined the surface of the valve cover and this, then no RTV will be required. But since we remove this perfect surface is no longer perfect. So where there's possible leakage on here, it will be in a couple spots. It's not, like I said, it's not difficult to prevent this, but you can RTV pretty much the outer seam here, all here, like extremely minimal. That's it. Like, I mean, like nothing. Like you just pass it. Like it's ridiculous on the amount of little RTV you need. And I'll show you guys. And this is per the Bentley manual. This is not made up, guys. So you guys got to understand that. I don't make up stuff. I will tell you if I make up my own like repairs. So I have like legitimately just a P size here, and the RTV goes on this side. Sorry, not this side, but this side. And we're going to RTV. Like I said, we're just going to smear it. We're not trying to make an actual seal here. We're just trying to make it prevent something for us. Now, I went a little over on this side, so what we're going to have to do is get our rag and clean that off. because that's too much RTV right here, especially by this passage. Like I said, we're trying to keep this to a minimal. So you'll see there. And that's per the Bentley manual on how you guys RTV this one cam seal, this cam cap, and it just goes right here. That's it, man. Don't jinx it by putting more in it. Less is more. Rule of thumb, guys. Less is more. Now, you cannot put the cam seals on and then put the cap on. That will actually damage the actual cam seal. You got to put that seal on after everything is mounted. So now that's all down. Now we put all our caps back in order. Where am I located? I'm located in San Diego, or if you want to be more precise, Escondido, California. All right, so now the end and the front and the back are tightened. They're not torqued to spec. So don't torque these to spec, okay? You're just going to put this down by hand. So now the valve, just put all your cam caps back in. Same way you took them off, you put them back in. There's nothing special about that. You're not torquing these down at all. Almost done. All right, so now on the Bentley manual, it wants you to go in and work your way out when you install your cams. So, and you're going to start using opposites, not, what's it called? Don't be, what's the word? Going linear on your bolts. Tighten everything opposite from each other, because if not, you will damage and score any of your parts, and then you'll have heat problems. You'll end up having odd wear on your cams. So those two are down. Now tighten down this guy. Now you'll notice I'm only going to go so far down, and that's it. I'm not actually tightening these guys like legitimately. these only go down to 7 foot-pounds. So what we're doing is we're going to try to get these cap to mate with the metal and stop. We're not torquing anything down. We want to do the first 4 caps here at the same time. So not same time, but in odd sequences. That way the pressure goes all the way down evenly. So that way you can tighten the rest of your cam caps correctly. And you'll notice I'm going to go back and forth rocking this part, because what happens is you go down a little bit on one side, the other side lifts up. So you can't do that with cams because, like I said, you can damage something. Because you have to go down 100% even. So you really can't do that if you're going only one side down first and then vice versa. And you'll feel it. I mean, you'll feel it stop. That's when you know you hit the bottom. You're right there where you need to be. You're at the bottom of the cap of the cam. So now you work your way onto the other side over here. So we're going to do the opposite cam of this. So we're doing the exhaust valve now. Now this one is a little tricky. You got to do both of them because this is one cap. So you want to work your way evenly through the tightening process, going left and right. So now we got these caps all the way down, these caps all the way down. This one's next now. All right, so now we got intake cams, exhaust cams set down. Now you can just tighten everything from opposites and you'll be good to go on that part. No problem, Donna. I'll do the best I can to help you on that, okay? So now we're just going to tighten everything down. And again, now you can actually do it a little bit faster than before. Because what we're going to do next is start torquing everything down the spec, which is very important now at this point in time of your cam install, aka tensioner, Halfmoon seal job. And this job, if you took this to a shop, is easily $800 to $1,000 to do this job. It cost me $200 for the parts, saved $600. So It's not bad. $600-800 in savings is a really good price. People don't realize this is an expensive job, and it's not for the faint of heart. A lot of you guys, I'm just showing you guys what to do. I don't recommend this to anybody to do it themselves if they're not confident in themselves to do it. But if you're a person that's willing to do the work and willing to double, triple, quadruple check your work before you say it's done, then do it. People who do that and double, triple, quadruple check their work are people that are going to be successful in this job and this repair. Why? Because you're willing to make sure everything's set right. And that matters a lot when you do this job. Okay. So now we're in. So now we got to torque this guy down. And everything has to be torqued to 7 foot-pounds. If I can find my torque wrench, there you are. And confirm my cam cap bolts, 7 foot-pounds. All right. Now, you want to work your way in and out on each side of the cam, being safe and taking your time. So there you go. These don't go on very tight. So it's some breaker bars. You won't feel the click. You'll just feel the bar just kind of wiggle. If you have an inch-pound torque wrench, that'd probably be the better option, because that one will click on you. Let's see. Do you work for VW at some point in time, or is it just the love for VWs? It is strictly the passion. Actually, I have a huge passion for teaching people, and I love VWs. VWs are like my favorite car in the world due to the fact that people that own them are amazing. Not the cars as much. Cars are fun. They're dope. You know, I love them. But the people who own them are even better than the cars. So I'm a little bit of both, I guess, if you want to say that. I'd love to teach. So that's why I'm here. Okay, now we're over here. So that's why I'm doing this mostly. But no, I never worked for VW ever. I'd love to. But it wouldn't be as fun for me because working on them all day, every day is not the same as teaching someone and learning something new every single time. You know, working on the same car over and over and over and over, I think it's boring. Obviously, I do the same thing here, but I learn in different ways. There's a lot of different scenarios in what I do, so a lot of things new pop up for me. I think I was a teacher in my past life. I hope I was. Or I was just a really big car addict. All right, almost done. Whew. So all I'm doing here is double checking, is everything clicking where it needs to click? And if I didn't miss any bolts. If I did, uh-oh, not a good thing. That's good, Donna. I'm glad that you enjoy learning what I've been learning, and obviously more. So now that the everything's set up here, so we're officially done with our head with all the important stuff. Now, before you take this bolt out from here for the tensioner, Obviously, if you put the valve cover on, it won't be timed 100% because there's no tension. There's no tension on there. So what's going to happen is that we're going to have to put the cam, take that tool off and put the valve cover on. And then this should automatically time itself to where it needs to be. So good thing we didn't remove the cam yet, the cam gear. That way we can make sure everything's set correctly. Or else we've got to do all the work again. Simple as that. So if you're comfortable for where you're at, you're going to remove the next part of the job. You're going to remove the tool. So this has an Allen bolt on top. And you're just going to unbolt it just like this. And what's going to happen is that hydraulic tensioner, the spring built into it, it's going to do its job. It's going to put tension onto the chain. Voila. So now, eventually, well, now that chain is under tension. You should not be able to put this push down on that at all. Eventually, this will move on its own and even out. Get the valve cover back on here. Oh, right, into my splash covers. So these go on here, just like that. They only go on one way. If you put it in the other way, they don't go on. So they go on only one way. See? They don't fit. So they just fall into place. There's nothing special about these. Okay, so those are on. The next part of your job is to pretty much clean up the valve. Shit, that's so sketchy, man. You're gonna need to clean up the head here for your valve cover install. So clean rag, go through it. If you have a razor, scrape anything that's RTV. You don't need to put anything else on here. And if you need to put RTV on here, every corner, every spot that has like a hard turn, or like I said, like a 90-degree, you put literally just a dab of RTV in there and then put your valve cover on. I'm just going to put the valve cover on just for timing purposes. We're not going to install the valve cover gasket anytime soon yet. We just need to make sure if everything is set correctly. Now, like I said before, your timing will be off by a little bit. And that's just the nature of doing the cam and the tension, because what's happening, you put everything and you kind of got it loose, now you're tightening it. And what's going to happen is the cams are going to fall into place and they're going to go to where they need to go. You can give them a little push by cranking the cam around using the 16, I believe. Yep. And just cranking it over to the right. You can't go very far because, again, you have that tensioner and it has a lot of pressure on it. And what's going to happen is that it's not going to do much for you. Because you've taken stuff off and you've got to put it back on. It's a process. That's cool. That's cool, Donna. So, like I said, let it sit and let it get broken in. It'll do it on its own. You can speed it up by cranking the cam around a little bit, but not by much, just to get it where you want it. But that tensioner, since it's brand new, it's got a lot of tension in it. It's going to be hard. Oh, that's cool, Timothy. There's not much you can do because it's really hard on there. Leave it alone. The next thing you're going to need to do is now clean up the front of your engine here. Razor blade, rag, whatever you got, and start installing your timing components. And then we'll be able to do the other stuff that you need. Now, the next part of the DIY is a part of tonight's DIY is the timing stuff, but it looks like it's really late for me now. So I want to wrap this up for tonight. We did a lot already, but we're going to do more tomorrow. It's late for me because I got to be at work at 5. I got to wake up at 5 in the morning, but we can do some more later, guys. So we'll continue this DIY tomorrow, same time, 8:30 p.m. So, oh no, I can't do it tomorrow. Friday. We're going to do this Friday. Nick, how long would it take to install a KO3? Pull the engine, because you will hate life trying to install it from underneath the car. So pull the engine and then just do it from the back. I'd say 2 days, because if you try to do it from inside the engine bay, you're going to have a heck of a time lining up the 3 bolts that go on the back of the turbo. It's not easy. Me and my friend did it once, and it legitimately took us, I think, 2 days, but of a hard work. I mean, a lot of hard work. Taking the motor out takes about 4 or 5 hours if it's your first time, and then it'll take you 30 minutes to swap it out, and then another 4 or 5 hours to pop the engine back in and get back into it, which is a good idea anyways, because that way you can refresh any gaskets you need to refresh while you're out of there. Good idea to replace the oil cooler if it's super old, or any oil lines, or find anything issues around the engine itself, so you can have a good idea. If you have a 4-speed, okay, Timothy. Now, this is a good question, and I'm going to answer this one time because I get this question asked all the time, Timothy. Your car is a 4-speed automatic and you want to go to a manual. Do you have, hold on, there we go. Do you have a donor car to do your swap? Because you need a lot of parts to do a swap. You need the pedal cluster, you need the shift cables, you need, what is it, ECU, you need the harness, you need the transmission mount, the mount that goes on top. You need 5-speed axles. You're going to need all the 5-speed parts on top of the engine. Transmission. You're going to need a 5-speed center console. Oh man. And you're going to need the 5-speed pedal assembly. And it's not easy to swap those out. That's a lot of work to swap one of those out. This is what you should do. Go buy another Mark IV with the 5-speed already in it. That's a turd. And put the engine that's good in the other one. Swap that over to your manual, and you're done. It will save you that. I'm going to tell you this. Swapping the 5-speed transmission, not the pedal assembly, is the hardest part out of your whole entire job. That brake cluster and the clutch is legitimately the hardest things to take out of one of those cars. Everything else is cake. Everything bolts on, everything's where it's supposed to be. Those clusters, it's so much work. Yeah. So go buy another cheap Mark IV with a 5-speed transmission already in it, and just swap whatever is good and have yourself a good running 5-speed transmission. No, don't fix an automatic. It's a turd of a transmission. You'll spend too much money fixing it, and you'll just have another headache and a half with that 4-speed. The 4-speed transmissions in the Volkswagen Mark IV and Mark III were turds, just total turds. They just fail. The valve bodies have a lot of problems with them. If you can find a 5-speed auto, go for it. But in all honesty, just go find another super. You bought that car for nothing. You bought it for chump change. Go buy another Mark IV that's okay, maybe with a good interior, and just swap stuff over. That's it. And then junk the automatic. You'll what's the word? You'll love me for it, honestly. Yeah, you will love me. I get a lot of people that hit me up about automatic transmissions and they want to do swaps. By all means, go do all the work. But at the end of the day, you spend too much time for just making a car a manual transmission. It's not as easy as people think. If you were doing like a crazy build and you're tearing stuff out and you were just going to do something nuts with it, way different scenario. But you're just going stock to stock, not very beneficial. You're not doing really anything crazy. You're not doing anything big boy stuff. Don't worry about it, man. I know it's disappointing for me to say that, but there are some swaps that are just not worth it. Like a Mark II going to swapping over to a 1.18, it's a manual already. It's an easy drop-in swap. The hardest part is the harness, and that's it. I got someone to do most of the work for me on that part. The rest of it I will be teaching you guys. But yeah, that's yeah, I don't know, man. But it's late for me because I gotta be up in a couple hours. Thanks again for watching this episode of Pinchal's Garage live. I appreciate you guys. If I don't see you guys anytime soon, Merry Christmas. I'm a big Christmas guy. I believe in what Christmas is about. I don't care about the religious aspects about it. I just care about, loving everybody and, just caring for one another. That's all I really care for about Christmas. So Merry Christmas, one and all. Have yourself a wonderful night. If I don't see you again this year, 2019 is gonna be freaking huge for us at Pinchal's Garage. We got a Corrado that we're giving away. We got a big turbo Mark II that we're building and finishing up on. We're not building, we're finishing it. And we got a bunch of other fun stuff that we're doing. We're giving away a bunch of coilovers next year. So if you guys want some coilovers, we're going to be doing some stuff for you guys. We got a bunch of other fun stuff. So thanks again. Merry Christmas for everyone. Merry Christmas, Nick. And have a happy new year. But I will be back on Friday. I promise. I can't do it tomorrow because I got a car meet. But Friday, I promise I will be here. Same time, 8:30 p.m. So have a good one and have a good night. This will be up on YouTube pretty soon, so you guys can enjoy that. Peace out and have a good night, and have a good morning to most of you people on the other side of the world. I know that. And good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at in the world. So peace out.